Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Bobshoween. All throughout the month of October, we'll be looking at some truly horrific films, and what better way to kick off this festive holiday season than with something that no internet reviewer has ever done before. A Stephen King miniseries. For those of you who are disappointed by the remake of The Haunting, don't worry. This made-for-TV rehash will make up for it the same way that a Band-Aid will make up for a bullet to the skull. The movie opens in your typical Stephen King setting. Seattle! Yeah, bet you thought it was gonna be Maine, didn't ya? Here's the really confusing part. Apparently, Rose Red, the titular haunted house of the movie, is actually based on a haunted house in Stephen King's hometown of Durham, Maine. So why the location change? Why not just set it there? Well, anyway, we start off in Seattle in 1991, as the terrifying Times New Roman title appears over a relaxing shot of some people on a leisurely boat ride. Can't you just feel the tension building here? Really, the most horrifying thing about these opening credits is that they're giving me Tommy Wiseau flashbacks. Oh hi, calm piano music and B-roll of famous city. Ha 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 ha. We cut to an elderly couple lamenting about how they had to put their dog down.
You know as well as I do that Buddy never bit anybody before in his life. It was her. He sensed something in her. There's something about her that's wrong. And Buddy sensed it. Dogs know. Oh, you bet.
The little girl in question starts to scribble all over a drawing of their house, which somehow makes rocks fall from the sky and onto the old couple's house.
It never happened.
Perhaps not, if you say so.
Now, to be fair, this movie is more than just a cheap knockoff of The Haunting. It actually solves a couple of problems that story had. Like, remember when they established how isolated Hill House was?
We live over in town, miles away.
Yes.
So there won't be anyone around if you need help.
This movie takes the haunted house that our heroes will be trapped in and puts it right next to the freeway. Isn't that so much scarier than being isolated where no one can help you? We cut to 10 years later, where we see Professor Joyce Reardon, played by Nancy Travis, wrapping up her psychology class before summer break.
Enjoy your summer.
Professor Reardon, question, please. Question?
Your question?
Because one student raising his hand is going to make the entire class stop dead in their tracks after they've just been excused for the summer.
There are rumors that you're planning a scientific investigation of Rose Red this summer, the Rimbauer Mansion, a sort of psychic field trip. Well, is it true, Professor Reardon? And if it is, are you planning on using departmental funds or college general funds to finance your latest spook hunt?
I have filed no request for either general funds or money from the department to underwrite what you term a spook hunt. If you feel like asking him to confirm that, he's right up there. A question of mine, Mr. Bollinger. Did Professor Miller perhaps suggest you stop by my class to pose your question instead of dropping by my office like a normal reporter?
If I embarrassed you, Professor Reardon, I am sorry.
Don't believe it, Mr. Bollinger. Carl Miller stuck a key in your back and wound you up, and it was his intention that I be embarrassed.
It was his intention that he tried to humiliate me in front of all of my many students who have been hanging on my every word by talking about my enthusiasm of Rose Red, which I have not been shy about talking about this entire semester. You're not very good at trolling people, are you? We then see her compiling a list of assistants to join her at Rose Red.
I'm finalizing my list of participants for my little Rose Red field trip, and I'd really like you in.
5,000 is a trifle low. If you were to be offering a bit more, say 7,500, for instance.
Mr. Waterman. The funding for this expedition is coming out of my own pocket, and 5,000 is all I can afford, so what do you say, Emery? In or out?
Well, yeah, if you're paying out of your own pocket, I suppose there's not a whole lot of room to haggle, is there?
5,000 isn't gonna be enough. If you can promise 10, I might try to make this happen.
10,000 done.
Wait, what? Why is she willing to cave to the demands of budget Phoebe Cates here? Oh, wait, she's one of those professors who thinks that anything with a penis is inherently evil, isn't she?
I've got to have her. I've got to have Annie Wheaton.
Why?
I've got the makings of a good group here, but they're candles. Annie Wheaton is a searchlight. If anyone can wake up Rose Red, she is the one.
Why do you need to wake up a haunted house? Yeah, they established earlier that the house is lying in a dormant state, but if you're trying to find proof of psychic phenomenon, why even bother with a haunted house at all? Apparently, this house stoning incident and its connection with Annie is on record, so why not just try to recreate similar incidents? Just give her a box of crayons and let her loose. We later cut to Joyce giving her orientation to her assembled team, where she openly admits that, like Shirley Jackson's Hill House, Rose Red was born bad. Yep, not only is this movie acknowledging that it's ripping off a much better story, but also how incredibly bad of an idea its own premise is. Isn't waking up a house of evil, oh, I don't know, incredibly stupid? The last person to disappear in the house only left behind a handbag with a big bloody bite taken out of it. If the popular theory is that the house got her instead of being the victim of some highly elusive serial killer, is this really the kind of house you want to screw with? Anyway, she explains that while the house was being built, its owner and his wife, Ellen Rimbauer, were honeymooning in Africa, where she almost dies of fever. Luckily, a young villager named Zucchina nurses her back to health, and they take her back to America to be their new servant.
January 1909, that would have been. John thought the house was finished. What he didn't know is that the house would never be done. Not in his lifetime, not in hers. After 1950, Rose Red grew on its own.
What exactly does that mean? Did the house somehow inspire people to keep on building it? Were rooms just spontaneously emerging into existence, thus providing all the physical proof of all the psychic phenomenon you could ever need?
When Ellen gave birth to a daughter with a withered arm, she blamed her African sickness and her husband's sexual appetites.
Yes, rather than shrug it off as a simple accident of nature, go ahead and blame your husband, who, as far as we know, is only guilty of having sex with his wife. Bitch.
She wrote, "In my mind they are one," to which she added, "Damn all men."
Blah blah blah, the house kept on growing, people died, men are worse than Hitler, and Joyce finally wraps up her little spiel.
What exactly do you want from us, Miss Reardon?
If you apply electricity to the muscles in the leg of a dead frog, the muscles will contract hours after the frog has died. You people are my psychic equivalent of electricity. My goal is modest. A single twitch. One single twitch. If I get it, my reputation will be secure for the rest of my life.
Oh goody! She doesn't want to expand on the world of science or come to a clearer answer to what happens after we die. She's only in it for her reputation. What an endearing character. I sure hope she makes it out of this movie alive.
And now if you could all please come here and join me. I'd like to close with the circle.
Joyce, is there anything particular you'd like us to focus on?
Oh, I guess just goodwill, good thoughts, each other.
That's lovely.
But that kid who tried to ambush her before takes a picture of the circle, and this somehow was intended to embarrass her further. Really? I've seen on-campus assemblies of Holocaust deniers whose principal argument was that they should be free to say whatever they want without any sign of criticism simply because they can. A picture of Joyce holding hands with a bunch of senior citizens isn't going to cause that much of an uproar.
Ah!
Oh, it's a nasty little cut.
But yes, apparently this little incident is enough for Joyce to lose her tenure. Watch this. When this is all over and done with, she's gonna start rooming with the professor from Catwoman. Note to self. Pitch sitcom with crazy professors from Rose Red and Catwoman movie.
You're an idiot and you're blind.
What if you found proof? Let's just suppose. Proof, photographs, audio recordings of the clanking chains, telemetry of some sort. What difference would it make? What good would it do if you even considered such thoughts?
I feel remarkably well today, Carl, despite of all your crap. See, this is the world we live in and experience with our five senses. Skin, smooth and rational. Every cause has its effect, and every effect can be predicted with the right database at hand. But there's a world under that world, Carl. Blood under the skin. That's what rationalistic asses like you never see. It's a world that's liquid instead of solid, hot instead of just warm. It is a world full of mysteries. You don't like it, do you? No. So don't give me your bull about bond issues and busted programs. You're afraid.
So am I! You're an incredibly frightening person! I mean, my god! Your employer is threatening to take away your job security, and this is how you try to show him up? What would happen if her house caught fire? Would you try to put it out with gasoline? Anyway, that Bollinger kid is once again on Joyce's trail to get more pictures of her doing weird psychic things. Which is kind of pointless, considering how she's already been fired from her department, but whatever. But he meets that Zucchina chick from before, already ruining whatever suspense that might arise from the question of, is this house actually haunted, or is it all in the minds of its occupants? But on the plus side, at least we know that it's not building up to a giant spider at the end.
Hey, I thought this house was empty.
You would be Mr. Bollinger, I believe. The reporter.
Yeah, I'm Bollinger, but how did you know?
Come in, sir. You're expected.
No, he's not expected. He should be running for his life at this point. But no, he wanders around the house like a dumbass and gets locked in the greenhouse, where he gets attacked by bees and a xenomorph? Joyce and her party assemble to head off to Rose Red, where they playfully banter with each other to get us to relate to them.
Gosh, the day before summer camp must have been a busy time in the Waterman household.
Shut up.
Aren't they just so pleasant? Sissy and Annie join the group when this happens.
Oh, stop it, Annie. Just quit it.
Why is nobody documenting this? I mean, seriously? How many psychologists would kill for this kind of activity? Forget about the house that's known for eating people, and just get this girl on videotape and get her to move things around with her mind! How can someone as educated as you be so mind-numbingly stupid? They finally get to Rose Red to begin their expedition.
I've never done anything like this before, and I'm pretty much scared to death.
Be not afraid. Only believe.
All you need to do is believe that the house has a history of eating women. You don't have to actually be afraid of it.
What is it? What can you hear?
Steve,
It knows we're here. It wants us here. God help us, it wants us here.
You can tell how unnerved I am by the sheer level of terror in my voice. They step inside and start taking notes on what they find immediately.
Friday afternoon, 3:17 p.m. We've just experienced our first paranormal phenomenon. A phantom draft.
But couldn't it just be a regular draft? No, it's a phantom draft. It doesn't seem to me like you're being very objective in this experiment.
I think you'll find this interesting.
Wow. You could make Thanksgiving dinner for 100 people in here.
Maybe after the place was fumigated.
You're such a charmer.
Yeah, he's not being all that positive so far. Why don't you throw another fat joke at him? That ought to lighten the tension.
I'll sleep with Emery, and after midnight we'll raid the fridge, won't we, Em?
There you go. Ass. They find the cell phone that Bollinger dropped, and they deduce that he's still somewhere in the house spying on them.
And if we find Bollinger, we can give him a cup of tea and a good spanking and send him on his way.
Sounds good to me.
Oh my god, Stephen King wrote this as a fetish porn, didn't he? They continue touring the house, and they use some rope to mark their path.
Well, couldn't we just go back and get the plans?
In this house, the plans don't always mean a lot.
It's only a safety measure, honestly.
This deal is getting worse all the time.
But while they're doing that, the ghost of April, the girl with the withered arm mentioned earlier, appears in the kitchen. This might have been scary if they were still in the kitchen to actually see her, but as it is, this is entirely pointless. The party makes its way into a room called the Perspective Hallway, which Ellen Rimbauer designed and built herself. Since, as it's well been documented, women always had access to that kind of education necessary for her to do that.
It's so wild, like something in a funhouse.
Why, having fun?
They wander into another room with a mirrored floor for some reason, where they see this blue ghost suddenly appear. They shoot some video footage of it, and even take a few pictures with Bollinger's camera, which, by the way, is never explained as to what it's even doing here. But since these earth-shattering images are never referenced again, this is all, once again, entirely pointless. Next scene! They start to make their way back, but the house starts changing on them.
It's not the same. The hallway.
No, nonsense.
No, he's right. We should be going back the way we came, but we're not.
Steve, what's going on?
I don't know.
Is it too hard to remember? Or too frightening to remember?
Hey, Simon Cowell, this guy's entire family has been eaten by this house. I think he's allowed to be a little afraid of it. They find their way back downstairs, pick on Emery a little more, and resume talking about the history of the house. Haven't heard any of that in a while.
Deanna Petrie was a fairly big star in the 40s. Musical comedies mostly. She could dance, sing a little, and she was sexy as hell.
You know, for all of this movie's unabashed hatred of all things male and all of these vaguely lesbian undertones that Joyce keeps providing, I am really surprised that never in this entire miniseries do we see a girl-on-girl love scene. I don't know if I should be impressed by them not appealing to the lowest common denominator like that, or if I should be disappointed by their not giving us what would no doubt be the most entertaining scene in the entire movie.
Deanna's disappearance made Rose Red's reputation.
And again, it's not the half-dozen men who died during the house's construction that made Rose Red's reputation, it was a woman. Men are completely worthless, you see. They order some pizza, which is delivered by Stephen King himself, and Joyce never consults her crew about what they might like on their pizza, what a bitch. And he's naturally curious about the house.
Hey, this is some place, huh? Is it haunted? Yeah. But there goes the delivery man who asked too many stupid questions and never escaped.
And you instantly made me want to stop sticking up for you. Hey Nick, have at him. So they had themselves a little dance, and the hell? Why isn't anyone recording Sissy and Steve levitating? I mean, I know it's not as impressive as a gust of wind, ooh, but seriously? You're letting this fly by? Come on! They keep on talking about Rose Red's sordid past, and suddenly the room starts coming alive. And apparently they have this device that somehow detects how many people are in the room with them, corporeal or not, and it counts a lot more people than we've seen die so far. I can't tell if that's a mistake, or if it's meant to imply that there are a lot more people who died than are on record, but either way, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Another ghost shows up, and, again, no one thinks of grabbing a camera. Yes, I'll prove to the world that Rose Red is haunted by not gathering any proof of any kind. God, I'm a smart scientist. Later that night, Joyce is writing in her notebook, and, okay, seriously, lady? You're making Jack Torrance look less obsessive. And why do you need Annie to unlock Rose Red? It's already unlocked! Moron! Other members of the party get little freakouts of their own, and this might have been scary and suspenseful if we didn't already see the movie's flashy, ghost-ridden climax a few minutes ago. The next morning arrives, and there's still no sign of Bollinger. Steve calls Professor Miller again, and leaves a rather incriminating message to get his attention.
This is Stephen Rimbauer again. I need to talk to you about Kevin Bollinger.
He slit his wrists and wrote your name on the wall in his own blood before he died. And Joyce suggests you come out here before we call the police. Maybe we can work out a way to minimize the scandal, but it's imperative you come the second you get this message.
And yes, that is pretty bad and all. But we do know that there are worse things he could have written in his own blood, don't we? I still have trouble sleeping at night. Steve has a little moment with Annie, where she makes a domino levitate, pretty impressive, and she turns a flower into an iPod. Pretty stupid. Sissy joins them, and she tells the backstory of that little dog that bit Annie from the beginning of the movie.
Annie! Annie, make him stop! Oh, Annie, make him go away!
Just kick the dog Annie away! My roomie's dogs have chew toys bigger than that! After the incident with the stones, Sissy argues with her dad, and Annie intervenes with some bad CGI eyes. Way to make Batman and Robin's special effects look more convincing, movie.
What is it you found?
Something amazing. It explains so much.
Maybe we should...
Back in the present, one of the ghosts posing as the lesser Deschanel leads Jimmy Carter's brother into the backyard, where they find... a statue! Wow, this really explains so much! Meanwhile, Professor Miller and Emery's mother arrive, and she goes inside it. Oh no, wait. She just runs around at random instead of looking for him inside the house where they said they'd be. Okay.
Emery!
Help me, Mommy, I'm so scared.
Amers!
Help me, Mommy.
And Bollinger's ghost gets her, and Miller somehow doesn't hear her scream from only 20 feet away. And spotting what he thinks is Deschanel's corpse, the old man has a heart attack, but Emery thinks he's another one of Rose Red's tricks.
Emery! I'm having a heart attack! Call 911. Not there, not there, not there, not there, not there. Not there.
While all that's going on, Joyce is wandering around with a motion detector, which I think would be a lot more effective if it were absolutely still, and Emery gets lost in the house's twists and turns.
Big Vicky's dead. Thank God. Oh, thank God. My mother's here. Unless the house is imitating her. I suppose that could be. At first, I thought so, but the more I think about it, the more I think... And I got lost. I've seen things you wouldn't believe.
Not now, Emery.
This is neither the time nor the place to talk about ghosts or the house tricking you. Get real.
Oh, God!
Annie, don't move!
Professor Miller finally meets with the ghost of Bollinger, and... oh my god, Stephen King did write this as a porno! First the teddy bear from The Shining, that hot chick from the Tommyknockers, and now this? I think this movie just invented the genre Kingsploitation. Emery tries to make a break for it, but he gets distracted by a couple of chicks who forgot to set their tanning bed alarms. He shoos them away, but they don't take it well. Insert your own joke about finger banging here. Joyce tends to a nasty gash that Annie got on her head. Well, isn't that nice? Here I thought that she only cared about herself, but I guess times of crisis can bring out the best in anyone.
Are you holding the doors and the windows closed? Don't give me that blank stare. You understand me perfectly well.
Or she's just as psychotic and manipulative as ever. Sissy, where are you? Later that night, Steve feels the need to remind Joyce that there are several people missing, and a few dead. Since, you know, she's kind of crazy and might need such a reminder.
Joyce, do you understand what I'm telling you?
Of course. But since there isn't anything I can do about any of these people, not now at any rate, I'll continue with my observations. I am a scientist, you know. Or did you forget that?
No, we didn't forget. You're just an incredibly bad scientist. Somebody died from this experiment! It's time to pull the plug! One of their video cameras captures the scene of a party from several decades ago, and yet again, there's no one around to actually observe it. What exactly was the point of gathering all these people to witness the haunting of Rose Red if they aren't going to actually witness anything? Meanwhile, Emery offers his own theory on why the house isn't letting them out.
Oh, wake up. She's the one who's keeping us locked in. It locked us in when she was awake, right? Then, after she knocked herself out, everything opened up again. It was like a cramp letting go. If we take her out of the equation and the doors still don't open, we can worry about Rimbauer then.
No one is going to hurt this child.
Here's an idea, Miss Scientist. Why don't you try sedating her and see what happens?
Let's find some dry cleaning bags. We can wrap her up just until she passes out. Or pinch her nose shut. Just...
Okay, dude, you really need to calm down, alright? You're scaring the little girl.
Scaring the little girl?!
Where are you going, Kathy?
I'm going to get a glass of iced tea. I saw a nice big picture of it in the fridge. Oh.
You shouldn't go alone.
I'm not. God goes with me. Everywhere.
And I'll be sure that they write that on your tombstone. She goes into the kitchen, where she finds...
You killed my boy!
Kathy Bates! Ah! Nick arrives and rather calmly throws a billiard ball at her, and they decide to keep her presence a secret from Emery to keep him from wigging out even more than he already has been. They get lost on the way back to the rest of the party. Joyce takes Annie to help her with some equipment, with Emery reluctantly joining them, and Steve and Sissy disappeared off screen, setting up the classic horror film cliche of everyone splitting up for no reason. Nick and Kathy stumble into the perspective hallway, where they get chased by a ghost that apparently made a wrong turn at Albuquerque. She gets separated from him and gets lost in the attic, where she sees a vision of the original Rimbauer's death.
John?
Listen, I can explain this, Ellen. She, enticed me.
Entice you? You can explain it? Can you? Explain it to your whores.
What whores? Yeah, they say he had some sexual appetites, but as vivid as all of the rest of these flashbacks were, why didn't we see any of this extramarital activity? Oh, and because Ellen and Zucchina are holding hands, that means that their extramarital love affair with each other is good and pure, as is their completely justified murder of the man who brought them together. How charming! The ghost of April tries to push Kathy out the window, but Steve suddenly appears and tackles her. Yes, he physically tackles a ghost. She vanishes, and Steve comes to a terrifying realization.
Ellen's somewhere still around here.
When did you get the idea that she wasn't? They all meet again in the parlor, where Joyce is bizarrely skeptical about Steve's latest encounter, and Emery is still thinking about killing Annie so they can escape.
How often do you dream of her dying? Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Stop talking like that! Why do you have to be so miserable?
Why is it so mean?
Kathy attempts to use her automatic writing to get Annie to open the doors, which works because, psychic. But the house doesn't take it too well.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Joyce tries to kill Annie, for some reason, but the fireplace tries to eat her. And Emery saves her, also for no reason that I can determine. This gal is the reason for all of your torment here! Let her burn! The house starts coming apart, and while everyone else is trying to leave, Joyce feels that she has to stay behind. And Steve somehow feels torn about this. Yeah, he actually debates about whether or not he should help this woman who's been insulting him throughout the entire movie, and who now has gone completely bye-bye. Kathy and Emery head for the door, and... Oh my god!
I want to see if you've been cleaning your nails. I want to look behind your ears. I need to look at your teeth. And what about down there? Come to Mama, Emmy. Come to Mama. Have you been doing that nasty thing again? I hear you in your room at night. Mommy hears everything.
Help me, for God's sake, help me!
You're Emmy! For
What?!
For once in your miserable life, fight her!
The ghost of this guy's dead mother comes out of a mirror and strangles him, and you want him to fight her? Considering all the crap that this guy's gone through so far, it's amazing he didn't puke up his heart! Give him a hand! He could use one! They fight Emery's mom off, and they escape before Ghost Rider's drag queen can get them. Joyce is left inside as the house starts to come apart around her. Well, gotta give this movie some credit. Unlike Royal Albert Hall, these people actually know how to do a chandelier crash. The ghosts of Rose Red's victims finally have their way with Joyce, which I guess is to lightly paw at her like the girls from Manos, The Hands of Fate. The rest of the party watches as Annie makes stones rain from the sky once again to smash up the house. We cut to 6 months later, after I can only assume they were imprisoned for being a part of the mysterious disappearances of 6 people, where we see the survivors bid their final farewells to Rose Red before it's demolished. And our last terrifying image of the movie is 3 ghosts, including Joyce, as they all look incredibly bored by what's just happened. How incredibly terrifying. So that was Rose Red, and thank God it's finally over. Really, I have never been so bored by a haunted house movie in my entire life. The characters are all uninteresting and unpleasant. The story is full of cliches. The man-hate that permeates its core is just irritating. And it's more padded out than a 12-year-old's bra. I can admit to it having a few creepy moments, and some of the set design is impressive, but it's just not worth sitting through 4 hours of what so many other haunted house movies did better and in less time. But don't take my word for it. What did you think about it, Annie?
Bad.
That's right, Annie.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. See you next time.
From a summer place, from a summer place, the theme. From a summer place, it's the theme. From a summer place, from a summer place, the theme. From a summer place, it's the theme. From a summer place, from a summer place, the theme. From a summer place, it's the theme. From a summer place, from a summer place, the theme. From a summer place, it's the theme.